Hello, wrestling fans. As you know, this Sunday is WWE's last pay per view before WrestleMania, the pay per view that nobody needs and that will waste all of our time. As we get to WrestleMania, that is, of course, Fastlane, which I feel should be known as Roadblock because it seems to make more sense to me. And I'm going to be giving my predictions on what I think is going to happen at Fastlane, how the matches are going to play out as we head into WrestleMania, and all those matches that will be coming up as well. Fastlane is, of course, the first pay per view on Peacock, so I feel like that means they need to make it super important because there's totally a lot of important matches going on this Sunday, but we'll get into those in a minute. So let's get started. First up, we have the women's tag team titles are on the line. Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler will be defending against Sasha Banks, the SmackDown Women's Champion, and Bianca Belair, her WrestleMania opponent. The last thing WWE needs to do is put the tag team titles on Sasha and Bianca, because that does not need to be part of their story. The story is we have the Royal Rumble winner and the SmackDown Women's Champion. That's the only story that needs to happen going into WrestleMania. But of course, they will probably put the titles on Sasha and Bianca, taking away from any other of the women's tag teams that they have that could challenge Nia and Shayna at WrestleMania. But nonetheless, I think Nia and Shayna are retaining here because why not take away momentum from your SmackDown Women's Champion and her challenger at WrestleMania? This match does not need to happen. We already saw it once at the Elimination Chamber. We don't need to see it again, honestly. But we're getting it. What I think WWE will do, like I said, is probably put the titles on Sasha and Bianca, even though nobody wants to see that, honestly. I feel like maybe the way they work around this is that Bianca and Sasha are not getting along very well or things like that, and then they end up fighting each other, or Sasha walks out or whatever, and then that's how they lose. But either way, it takes away momentum from both of them. But my pick, of course, is for Nia and Shayna to retain and then probably go on to defend against some other women's tag team that's out there as well. There aren't many. Next up at Fastlane, we have Shane McMahon versus Braun Strowman in a rematch from this past Monday on Raw. I think they, on Monday night, they had a match that didn't really ever get started, I guess. So I do think this match will get started, but I think it's going to end with Braun winning by disqualification after an interference from Shane McMahon's favorite big dude from Raw Underground. Remember that show? Daba Kato. I think his name was Daba or Daba Kato. I think he's going to interfere and set up a match with him versus Braun Strowman at WrestleMania. I don't know why. I'd personally rather see that than him versus Shane at WrestleMania. But nonetheless, I think Shane is going to be managing Dabba-Kato, and then they'll fight at WrestleMania. So I think Braun is winning this match at Fastlane by DQ, and then we're going to get the build over the next 3 weeks with Dabba-Kato and Braun. I don't like the storyline they're doing with this either. I think it's stupid, which is what the storyline is. Shane McMahon keeps saying Braun Strowman is stupid. He's this big, stupid idiot giant and monster and everything else, but he's stupid. And I don't know what the point of that is. I feel like they could have just done Shane feels that Braun is a threat because he's not listening to authority figures and everything else, and then Shane just says, well, you think you're the biggest, toughest guy here? Well, I got somebody who thinks otherwise, and then he introduced Dabba-Kato that way. I don't know why they're doing it this way, but either way, I think it's still bringing Dabba-Kato back because he was drafted to Raw during the draft. I guess that would be a good way to sort of bring him to the main roster as a win over Braun Strowman at WrestleMania. Next up is another match for the Intercontinental Championship between Big E and Apollo Crews. Now, only because Apollo Crews recently had a change of attitude and a change of character and gimmick and everything, I think that Apollo might actually win this match, because if they have him lose to Big E again, I think that would take away from everything that Apollo just built up. Like, I know Big E hasn't had much of an Intercontinental title run, But I think at least have him lose to Apollo, let Apollo keep it for a while, then maybe win it back or something. I just feel like that's the route they're taking, is that Apollo is going to win with this new attitude that he has. And he is a heel now and stuff, so he's doing more heelish things. I think that's the best route they could possibly take, but who knows? And then we'll probably get one more match between Big E and Apollo at WrestleMania, which I'm okay with. I just think we've seen it like too many times already by this point. I think they fought each other twice already, but that was before Apollo changed his character and changed his ways and everything. So I think it'd be interesting to see Apollo actually win the title, and it'd be his first title in WWE, I believe. I don't think he ever held the United States title, but yeah. So I think he'd have a good run just like Big E has, and then they go back and forth, maybe trading the title back and forth for a while until they finally decide to keep it on one of them. I don't know, but I think it's going to be a good match either way. Probably one of the best matches of the night if it's given proper time. But I just think, as of right now, based on everything going on, I think Apollo Crews will win the championship. Next up on the card is another match that happened the past 2 weeks on Raw, actually. Well, not this past Monday, but the 2 weeks before that. It's Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus in a third match. They already had a normal one-on-one match, and then they had, last week on Raw, they had a no disqualification match. And now they're just having a regular one-on-one match again. Drew McIntyre, of course, was named he'll be challenging Bobby Lashley for the WWE title at WrestleMania. I don't know why this match with him and Sheamus wasn't like a number one contenders match or something, but I think Drew McIntyre has to win this match here, because if he doesn't, that takes away like all the momentum from him. Especially considering he's going to be in one of the two main events of WrestleMania for one of the biggest titles on the company. So I think Drew McIntyre is beating Sheamus again. As much as I hate to see Sheamus being in this situation in the first place, I don't know what they really do with Sheamus after this or where he goes from here, but I think he's going to take another. He's taken losses the past couple weeks. Like, he lost to Drew the first time. They had not a double disqualification, but like I guess they both kind of just both hit each other with steel steps, and then they passed out or something. So the ref kind of just stopped the match. And then Sheamus lost this past Monday on Raw to Bobby Lashley. So I feel like Sheamus is losing a lot, which is kind of sad because he's been really good in the ring lately. Like I think this is the best he's looked in a long time. I don't know where he goes from here, but I know Drew is going to WrestleMania, so I feel like they want to keep the momentum on him. So I think Drew McIntyre is beating Sheamus in this match. Now, one of the last two matches that was actually announced this past Monday on Raw is a strange one, because it's Randy Orton versus Alexa Bliss. Now, if you know the history of how this rivalry has been playing out, obviously this is leading to The Fiend coming back at some point to face Randy Orton at WrestleMania. Whether that results from this match or happens during this match, which I think is going to happen. I think they've been kind of playing this out too long. I feel like they've lost direction of what they wanted to do. Every match Randy Orton was in, Alexa Bliss would do something different to distract him, as The Fiend would have done if he were still here. But I do think that either this match will just not get started, and then The Fiend will come out and like attack Orton and stuff, and that'll lead into their match at WrestleMania. Or I think it will get started, and like let's say Orton goes for like a punt on Alexa Bliss or an RKO or something, and then the lights go out and come back on. The Fiend is there instead. I personally can't wait to see The Fiend. It's been too long since he's been gone. He's been gone since December when Orton burned him alive. And I want to see if he has like a new mask and everything else. I'm kind of excited to see that. He's one of my favorite characters. I don't like that they've been doing this supernatural stuff with him. Like, he's more of a character that's like a split personality almost. Like, Bray Wyatt is one personality and then The Fiend is the other. I don't like that they're going with the supernatural route with this, especially since they've been able to have cinematic stuff happen because there's been no crowds, but once there starts to be crowds again, you're not going to be able to do that as much. But I still like The Fiend, and I can't wait for him to come back and kick the crap out of Randy Orton at WrestleMania, let's be honest. But in terms of this match, I don't think obviously I don't think Randy Orton is winning. I don't even think this match is going to get off the ground, honestly, because WWE doesn't do too many intergender matches. So I don't think it's going to happen at all. I just think this is setting a trap for the Fiend to come out and attack Randy Orton, which I'm all for. You know, I'm sure all of you are excited for that as well. So we can stop all this nonsense with the Alexa Bliss interferences and get to the Firefly Funhouse stuff that Bray always does. That's more of a distraction and can actually lead to a good match at WrestleMania between Randy Orton and The Fiend. And finally, probably the most talked about match that will happen at Fastlane, I think, is the Universal title match, Roman Reigns defending against Daniel Bryan. Now, as I'm recording this, obviously we don't know who is going to be. There's going to be a special guest referee or special guest enforcer, however they're wording it, which is either Edge or Jey Uso, depending on what happens this Friday on SmackDown. Edge is facing Jey Uso, and the winner will be the special ref in that match on Sunday. I think that if Edge wins and becomes the special ref, I think there's going to be something that happens where Edge, like, inadvertently or not inadvertently costs Daniel the title, or costs Daniel the match, which will set up a triple threat match at WrestleMania. I think they are building toward that, honestly, which I don't want to see, because then all we'll see is we know Edge is probably going to win then because he'll pin Daniel Bryan and not Roman Reigns, and then we'll have to prolong Edge and Roman Reigns feud until like SummerSlam or something. I don't want to see that. I'd rather just see Edge win the title one-on-one. Now, if Daniel does win the title here, I think that Edge versus Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania would actually be a better match. But I don't want to see like Daniel win the title and then drop it right away, like a month or a couple weeks later, you know. But I still do think it would be a better match than Edge versus Roman. In terms of who I think might actually win at Fastlane, I honestly can't say, because who I want to win is Daniel Bryan, but who I think will win is Roman. Now, one thing that could play out, though, is maybe if Jey Uso is the special referee, I think that he might decide, I don't want to be Roman's like puppet anymore, so he'll turn on Roman and cost him the match, which will lead to Daniel winning. Then maybe we'll have Edge versus Daniel at Mania and Jey versus Roman at WrestleMania. Or that'll still lead to a triple threat match where Roman will be like, well, Jey cost me this match and stuff like that. I want back in the title match at WrestleMania and stuff. So they'll just put him in the match. I mean, that's what it looks like it's going to, is a triple threat match. So as of right now, I'd say probably Roman Reigns is going to retain, because something will happen with, I think Edge is probably going to be the special ref, and then I think Edge will accidentally or on purpose, but make it look like an accident, cost Daniel Bryan the match, and lead to a triple threat match at WrestleMania. A couple quick bonus predictions I have that haven't been announced yet that probably will be by the time Sunday rolls around for Fastlane. I think there might be either like a SmackDown tag team title match between the Street Profits and the Dirty Dogs, or they might do some kind of number one contenders match to set up who challenges for the titles at WrestleMania. If that were the case, I think we'd get like maybe the Mysterios versus the Street Profits versus Alpha Academy, which is Otis and Chad Gable. And maybe even throw in Sami Zayn and Baron Corbin into the mix, because that's a tag team everybody wants to see. But I feel like if they were to do that, I think it would be the Mysterios. I think what they're maybe planning is for the Rey and Dominic Mysterio to win the tag team titles at WrestleMania, which I'm all for. I'd kind of like to see that, honestly. And that's what Rey said he wants to do before he retires. He wants to win the tag team titles with his son. I think that may be even set up like a heel turn for the Street Profits, because they've been trying to get a number one contenders match. They've been trying to get their titles back and everything else. So if the Mysterios were to win that match, I think that would set that up. Maybe like that. Then they're their first challengers for the titles, and they turn heel and everything else. Not that I want the Street Profits to turn heel, because they're really good baby faces, but I think that's what it's maybe leaning toward. So if they did some sort of number one contenders match, I think the Mysterios are likely to win and go to WrestleMania to challenge for the titles. Another bonus prediction, there's probably just going to be a rematch from this past Monday on Raw, because this show is full of rematches. I think it's going to be Riddle versus Ali for the United States title again. I think Riddle's going to retain, and then I personally want to see him go on and face Keith Lee at WrestleMania. I don't know where Keith Lee has been, if he's injured or what, why he hasn't been here, but I want to see him win the United States title, hopefully at WrestleMania, and off of Matt Riddle, which kind of makes sense because he was supposed to be in that triple threat match with Riddle and Bobby Lashley back at Elimination Chamber, which got changed to John Morrison. So I think that's a way to set that up, is Keith Lee comes back maybe as a heel now and takes out Matt Riddle to win the title. Alright, so those are my predictions for Fastlane this Sunday. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. What are your predictions for some of these matches? How do you think things are going to play out? And what are you looking forward to the most about WrestleMania? Also, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more wrestling content every Thursday on this channel. And be sure to ring that notification bell so you get updated for all the videos that we put up. So, thank you for watching, everyone, and we'll see you in the next one.
Subscribe.